Imagine a president of the United States being asked on camera in front of the entire world, do you take responsibility for the death of children killed by your military? And imagine that president looking back at the reporter and saying 4 words, just 4 words. I don't know about it. Before we get into what happened next, make sure you're subscribed because the next updates on this story could be even bigger. That is not fiction. That happened today. And by the time this video is over, you will understand exactly what those 4 words mean, what they cost, and why they may be the most disgraceful sentence ever spoken by an American commander-in-chief. Stay with me because this story gets darker before it gets clearer. Let's start with the basics because some of what is happening right now is being buried under the noise of daily outrage. The United States is currently engaged in a military conflict with Iran. It has been going on for 12 days. In those 12 days, it has already cost American taxpayers more than $11.3 billion. That is not a typo. $11.3 billion in 12 days. 7 American soldiers have been killed, 140 have been wounded, and new reporting from CBS News has revealed that the true nature of those wounds is far more severe than the Defense Department ever chose to tell the public. We are now learning there are traumatic brain injuries among the wounded. There is at least 1 possible amputation. And right now, 25 American soldiers are hospitalized in Germany with serious injuries. The American people were not told this up front. Reporters had to dig it out. Now, here's where it gets even more troubling. The man running the Defense Department, the man responsible for those soldiers, is Pete Hegseth, a defense secretary who, if you remember, had to personally promise to stop drinking alcohol just to get enough Republican Senate votes to be confirmed. That is the bar. That is the standard. And what was Pete Hegseth worried about when news of American deaths started coming out? Was he worried about the soldiers? Was he worried about the families? No. According to his own words, he was worried that news coverage was, and I'm quoting directly here, intended to make the president look bad. That was his concern, not the soldiers, the optics. And if you thought that was the most vain thing you would hear today, wait. Because Pete Hegseth has now ordered news photographers banned from the Pentagon, not because of national security, not because of classified information, but because photographs were taken of him during a press briefing that his staff considered unflattering. The Washington Post confirmed this, citing 2 people familiar with the decision who spoke anonymously out of fear of retaliation inside the Pentagon. People are afraid of retaliation inside the United States Pentagon because the defense secretary doesn't like how he looks in pictures. Now let's talk about Donald Trump because this is ultimately his war. He started it, he ordered it, and he has been lying about it from the very beginning. When asked about the conflict, Trump has repeatedly called it, and this is real, a little excursion. He said it again today. A little excursion. 7 soldiers dead, 140 wounded, possible amputations, brain damage, $11 billion, a little excursion. A reporter pushed back today. She said, you just called it a little excursion and you also called it a war. So which one is it? Donald Trump's answer, well, it's both. It's both. That was his answer. A riddle wrapped in an insult to every soldier who has bled in this conflict, and the lies don't stop there. Before this war even began, Trump's own energy secretary, Chris Wright, went on record on February 18th saying he was not concerned that a potential war with Iran might disrupt oil supplies. Some of Trump's other advisors privately shared the same view, dismissing warnings that Iran might close shipping lanes that carry roughly 20% of the world's oil supply. They were wrong. Catastrophically wrong. Iran did exactly that. And now gas prices are skyrocketing across America. Now inflation is climbing. Now fertilizer prices, about a third of international fertilizer trade moves through the Strait of Hormuz, are going through the roof, just as American farmers are heading into planting season. All of this was predictable. Experts predicted it. The warnings were given, and the Trump administration dismissed every single one. The New York Times reported that the episode is a clear example of how badly Trump and his advisors misjudged how Iran would respond to a conflict that Tehran views as an existential threat. Trump even claimed that demanding regime change in Iran would produce a leader more acceptable to him. Instead, Iran appointed the son of the previous supreme leader, a man who may be even more hardline than his father. When asked about this today, Trump said, again, this is real, they have a new leader every 3 weeks, every 3 days. He said 3 weeks and then changed it to 3 days within the same sentence. The last Iranian supreme leader ruled for 37 years. His son is 56 years old. Iran has had exactly 3 supreme leaders across 47 years of existence. But according to Donald Trump, they change leadership every 3 days. A new report from Reuters tonight confirms that Trump's own intelligence agencies have assessed there has been no real effective change in Iranian leadership at all. Now we get to the part of this story that should stop you cold. A United States Tomahawk missile struck a school in Iran, a girls' school. A preliminary Pentagon investigation has now confirmed that American forces bombed that school due to what they are calling dated targeting information, meaning the military was using intelligence that identified the building as part of an adjacent military complex. How dated was that targeting information? The New York Times conducted a visual investigation and found that the building had been fenced off from the nearby military base sometime between 2013 and 2016. 3 public entrances were open to the school. A sports field had been painted on the asphalt. Walls had been painted blue and pink. This was unmistakably a school. The targeting information used to bomb it was at minimum 10 years old. 175 people are dead. Most of them were children. When the story first broke, Trump's initial response was to blame Iran, claiming Iran could somehow obtain and operate a United States Tomahawk missile. That lie lasted about 1 day before it became too ridiculous to repeat even for him. The next day, Trump said there was an investigation underway, so he wasn't going to comment. That's the version of accountability this administration offers. We're looking into it, which is Washington speak for hoping the story dies before the answers come. And then today came the lowest moment yet. A reporter asked Trump directly, as commander-in-chief, do you take responsibility for the strike on the school in Iran? A military investigation has found it was the United States that struck the school. Donald Trump's response, I don't know about it. He said it twice. I don't know about it. And then he moved on to the next question. There is a famous object in American political history. It sits on a desk in the Oval Office, or at least it once did. It was a walnut base, 13 inches wide, with a painted glass sign that read, "The buck stops here." It was made in a federal prison in Oklahoma and delivered to President Harry Truman by a U.S. Marshal. Truman didn't just display that sign, he lived by it. In a 1952 address to the National War College, Truman said that when a decision is made and shown to be wrong, his desire was not to cover it up, but to admit it and make another decision to meet the situation. He said the president cannot pass the buck to anybody. That is his job. In his final address to the nation from the Oval Office, Truman spoke about the weight of the presidency. He said he wanted every American to understand how hard that job truly is, not for his own sake, since he was leaving, but for the sake of whoever came next. Truman would not recognize what is happening today because we have gone in the span of a few decades from the buck stops here to I don't know about it, from a president who built his legacy on accountability to a president who cannot even acknowledge that American missiles killed children in their classroom. Those girls were brave. They were trying to get an education in a country that has made education for girls a radical act. Some of those girls might have been future scientists, lawyers, teachers, the leaders of a more open Iranian society, and Donald Trump's missile killed them. And his response, when asked directly, is that he doesn't know about it. Polling released this week shows that Trump's Iran war has the lowest public support of any American war at its starting point in recorded history. And historically, support for wars only goes down from their opening days. It does not go back up. More than 2/3 of American voters say they expect gas prices to continue rising because of this conflict. In Georgia alone, a state whose #1 industry is agriculture, farmers are watching fertilizer prices spike and diesel costs explode, all while already being hammered by retaliatory tariffs from other countries responding to Trump's trade war. The FBI has now issued a warning that the West Coast faces potential threats from Iranian drone or missile attacks, something that, by the way, has also drawn questions about whether Trump's own FBI, which has reportedly fired many of its primary Iranian experts for their involvement in previous Trump-related investigations, is even capable of properly assessing that threat. Congressman Adam Smith, the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee, said it plainly tonight. Americans are not safer because of this war. Iran views this as existential. They are lashing out. And the administration that launched this conflict had no plan, no clear objectives, and no transparency about what it is costing, financially, militarily, or in human lives. 4 words. I don't know about it. Those 4 words will follow this presidency forever, because the commander-in-chief always knows. And if he doesn't know, that itself is a failure of staggering proportion. Either Donald Trump knew an American missile killed a classroom full of girls in Iran and chose to lie about it, or he is so detached from the war he started that the deaths of children did not reach his desk. There is no third option that reflects well on him. Harry Truman said the president has to decide. He can't pass the buck to anybody. No one else can do the deciding for him. That is his job. Donald Trump has now shown us with brutal clarity what happens when the man sitting in that seat decides that job is someone else's problem. A little excursion, he called it. Those girls, their families, the wounded soldiers, and the American taxpayers now paying over $1 billion a day. They know better, and so do you.